This is Fitness Blender's Fat Blasting Total Body Strength and Toning Workout. In this routine, we're going to go through a quick cardio warm-up, followed by a total body strength routine, and then we're going to do a quick cool down and stretch. Now to do this full routine, you're going to need at least one set of dumbbells, preferably more, and then you're also going to need either a bench, step, or even possibly a sturdy chair. If you already have all that equipment handy, let's go ahead and get started with our warm-up. Starting off with those lateral step pulls. I'm going to be doing these for 30 seconds. It's nice and slow, stepping left to right. A little bit of a rear lunge, but keeping that back leg straight. Nice big arm motion. Every time you come back to the center, those arms are up over your head. Every single time you step off to one side, those arms come back behind you. Now you want to be working those muscles against themselves the entire time. You never want to just swing those arms. You want to make sure everything stays nice and tensed. Now we've got just a few more seconds until we switch on to our next exercise, which is going to be a boxer shuffle. And go ahead and switch it. Get those feet moving. Just back and forth, staying up on the ball of your foot. Just alternating your weight back and forth from left foot to right foot. Just make sure you're moving really nice and quick. You're not letting that foot touch the ground for very long before you're switching back over the other foot. This is a really quick motion with those feet, but again, try to stay up on the ball of your foot, trying to let that heel actually touch the ground. Those calves should get really nice and warm by the time we're done with this. Now we've got just a few seconds left, and we're going to switch into our next exercise, which is going to be a stutter step. We're doing 30 seconds total, 15 on each side. All right, let's go ahead and start it up. So drop that front leg down into a little bit of a lunge. That rear leg's going to go to a full extension back behind you, reaching as far as you can. And then you're going to tuck that knee up in front of your body as high as you possibly can. Get it nice and close to that chest before we extend it right back out again. All right, let's go ahead and switch sides. Same exact motion on that opposite leg. Full extension back behind you, then tucking that knee up nice and high. Just alternating those arms back and forth. Got just a few seconds left, and we're going to move into just a traditional jumping jack. And go ahead and switch it. Going into that jumping jack, nice quick motion. Just snapping those feet out as those arms go up, and then bringing them back together as those arms come down to those thighs. Just a nice quick motion, keeping everything through that arm nice and rigid, through that leg nice and rigid, and contracting all those core muscles. The harder you contract all those muscles, the more you're going to get out of it, the more tone you're going to get out of it, the more calorie burn you're going to get out of it, and the faster you're going to warm your body up. Now we're going to be moving on to a toe touch plus an overhead stretch next. Again, 30 seconds on this one. Go ahead and switch it, stretching down towards those toes. Get a good stretch on those hamstrings. Those hands come over top of your head. Nice full extension on those arms. So dropping down, you're trying to get as close to those toes as you can. And then over your head, you're trying to get those arms as far away from those toes as you can. Just keep that motion going nice and smooth under control. Again, keep all those muscles nice and tight, never letting any of them relax. Got just a few seconds left. We're moving on to a knee up plus a butt kick next. So we're going to be alternating back and forth between these. Go ahead and switch it. So the knee up, 2 knees, then 2 butt kicks. 2 knees and 2 butt kicks. Just alternating back and forth. Trying to get that hip flexor to bring that knee up. Trying to get that hamstring to pull that heel to your butt. Just keep that motion under control. Make sure it's nice and slow. You don't want to overdo this. You're not trying to do a real quick motion. You're trying to get a full range of motion with a nice tight squeeze. Got just a few seconds left to go. Our last one is going to be high knees. End off with a nice hard one. And start them up. Drive those knees up nice and high. Now since this is your warm-up, you don't have to really work on it. You don't have to really drive those knees high. But if you want to and you have the energy to do it, pull those knees as high as you possibly can. Hip height or higher if possible. Otherwise, just keep those feet moving. You want to warm up those legs. This just lasts a little bit before you start into this routine. It's 10 seconds left. Keep those feet moving. Nice quick motion. Barely let that foot touch the ground before you pull it right back up. 3, 2, 1, and let it relax. Good job. All right, we're going to be moving on to the next portion of this routine, which is going to be our strength workout. We're going to be doing this in groups of 2 in AB format. 10 repetitions per exercise. So we're starting off with a reverse lunge plus 3 leg lifts. So using dumbbells for extra weight if you want to. Otherwise, you can do this with just body weight. So you're doing a reverse lunge, so stepping back behind you, get nice and low. Try to get that knee down close to the ground. You want to try to keep your weight evenly dispersed between that front and rear leg. Then when you come up, you're going to bring that rear leg up, squeeze it 3 times, full pulse, and then right back down into that lunge. Now we're using the same leg over and over on this one. We've got to get our 10 repetitions done, and then we're going to switch sides. Now just remember, keep your lungs open on this one. Nice controlled motions. Try to really push that full range of motion. You want to try to get as much out of this exercise as you can. There's really no difference between doing this with or without dumbbells. Only thing that's going to change is the amount of strength that's going to be required by those legs to actually do the motion. So the more weight you're using in those hands, the more strength you're going to build through those legs, potentially building a little bit of muscle tissue. If you're using just body weight, you're going to have a maximum point where you're going to hit that strength level, and then you're just going to move into tone from that point on. And here's our last repetition right here. Nice deep lunge, 3 leg lifts. And go ahead and switch those legs. So same exact motion, just stepping that opposite leg back behind you for that lunge and doing that leg lift with that opposite leg. Again, deep into that lunge, 3 leg lifts. Then back into that lunge. Keep those lungs open, keep all those muscles nice and contracted. Again, using whatever weight you can as far as what you want to get out of it. The more weight you use, the more strength development you're going to get. Also, the more calories you're going to burn and the more afterburn effect you're going to have. Now, the less weight you use, or if you're using just body weight, you're going to be focusing more on just tone, just making sure those muscles are nice and solid, rather than increasing the amount of muscle tissue you have or increasing the overall amount of strength you have. It's not going to burn quite as many calories if you're not using extra weight, and you're not going to get as much of an afterburn out of it. But it is going to be more important if you don't want to increase that overall size of muscle tissue. So just keep focusing on that form. You want to make sure you're getting a really nice full range of motion on that leg. Don't over-rotate those hips as you're doing that leg lift. And you want to make sure you're getting really nice and deep into that lunge as low as you can control, making sure you're keeping that weight evenly dispersed between that front and rear leg. And this is our last repetition right here. 3 leg raises. Nice slow controlled motion, tight squeeze the top. And let it relax. All right, let's go and move on to our next exercise, which is going to be a clean and press. You only need 1 dumbbell for this one. Now, it's preferable to do this motion with some kind of weight. So if you don't have a dumbbell, find something like holding a can of beans or a bottle of water. It's a nice quick motion. You're going from that dumbbell between those legs. You can either set it completely on the ground or just go to a half squat like Kelly's doing. You drive with those legs, so you're using those legs to get some momentum into that weight. Pop it up to your shoulder. Hold it there for just a second, and then get another pop with those knees to press it the rest of the way up over that shoulder. Slowly let it back down, and then repeat that motion over again. Nice, quick motion. Now, just like our last exercise, we're going to be doing 10 repetitions on this side, and then we're going to switch over and do the opposite arm. And there's your last one. Good full press. And switch sides. Same exact exercise, just on that opposite arm. And let's start it up. Hop it up to that shoulder first, and then press it over top that shoulder, and slowly controlled back down. Remember, you want to be driving this primarily from those legs, so really get a lot of momentum into that dumbbell or that whatever that weight is that you're using that hand. You want to make sure you get a really good hop with those legs to make sure that that arm is actually doing a relatively small amount of work for this exercise. It's just kind of moving that dumbbell into position rather than doing the actual full force of getting that dumbbell up over that shoulder. And we're almost done with this. We just have 2 more repetitions to go. And here's our last one right here. And let it relax. Very good. All right, we're going to be starting back over again for our second set of all these exercises. Starting back over with a reverse lunge with 3 lifts. So grab whichever weight you want. Start off that reverse lunge. Drop it down nice and low. Come back up. And then that rear leg raise. Back into that lunge. Nice and deep. Remember, try to keep that weight evenly dispersed between your front and your rear leg. The further you step back, the harder it's going to be for those legs, the more effort you have to put into it. Also, the more weight you're lifting, the more effort those legs are going to have to put into it. Just make sure every single time you do that leg lift, you're getting a nice tight squeeze at the top. Since there's no extra weight on that leg, you can only get as much work out of it as you push into it. So make sure you get a really tight squeeze, but don't let those hips rotate forward. You want to keep those hips nice and stationary. Now we've got just 2 repetitions left. Make sure you really focus on that form. Keep it nice and clean. I know those legs are getting nice and tired by this point. So your last one. 3 nice tight squeeze leg lifts. And go ahead and let it relax. We're going to switch those legs. Same exact motion. This is our last one for this exercise. Step back into that lunge. Nice deep lunge. And that 3 leg lifts. Very good. Back into that lunge. Just keep that chest nice and straight and tall. Really focus on that form the entire time, keeping everything nice and solid. Keep that chest straight up and down, making sure you're getting a deep lunge, making sure that weight is evenly dispersed from front to back leg. Just keep focusing on that form. We'll be done in no time. Doing a good job. We just have 2 more repetitions to go. Keep focusing on that form. We're almost done. And here's our last repetition right here. Nice deep lunge. Nice tight squeeze. And let it relax. Nicely done. We are completely done with that exercise, which means we have 1 more round of the clean and press on each arm. All right, go ahead and select the weight you need for this one. Feet just about shoulder width apart. Remember, this is all driven from those legs, or primarily driven from those legs, so get a really good amount of momentum built into that dumbbell as you bring it up to that shoulder, and then as you pop it up over top of that shoulder. Nice quick motion. Try to bring it straight up in front of your body. You want to try to pull a nice straight line from in between those legs straight up to that shoulder, and then right at the very top of that range of motion, right before you get in that dumbbell as high as you possibly can, you flip that elbow underneath real quick, and then you do a shoulder press. Just keep that motion going. It takes a little while to get this motion down really nice and clean, but once you do, it actually feels really, really easy. Just keep that motion going, really focusing on that form, trying to make sure it's nice and smooth. We're almost done. It's our last one right here. And let it relax. Very good. Let's go ahead and switch over to the other arm. This is actually our last exercise for this round. We're moving on to 2 new exercises after we're done with this one. And let's go ahead and start this one up. Feet shoulder width apart. Drop down into a squat. Drive with those legs. Pop that dumbbell up to your shoulder. Then pop those legs again, going into another little squat to hop that dumbbell up over top of your shoulder for a full extension. Just keep that motion going. Notice Kelly's keeping a really nice flat back with this one the entire time. Almost as like a traditional squat form every time you go down into that quarter squat to help get that dumbbell up. Remember, you want to be driving this from those legs, so a nice quick hop up from that squat to put momentum into that dumbbell to help you get it up to that shoulder, and then help you get it up over top of that shoulder. Just keep that motion going under control. You want to try to keep it a nice even pace, nice smooth motion. And this is actually our last 2 repetitions right here. Just got 1 more to go. And slowly let it down and let it relax. All right, very good. Let's go ahead and move on to our next 2 exercises. We're starting off with a step up plus a knee and a curl overhead press. This is all one motion. There's a lot going on here, so take your time with this one. So as you step up, you're going to curl. As you come up from that bench, you're going to drive 1 knee up at the same time as pressing over your head. Make sure you're on a really nice stable surface for this. If you only have a small short bench, just a few inches, that's perfectly fine. If you have a bench like Kelly has or a chair to step into, just make sure it's nice and stable as well. We're alternating legs on this one, so make sure you alternate every single time. 1 leg comes up as you curl, then as you step up, that other leg comes up, driving that knee up as you press those dumbbells over your head. Just keep alternating back and forth. Keep that back nice and flat. Again, keep the motion slow and under control. If you start trying to speed up too much, you're going to have a tendency to lose your balance. You're going to start pushing that momentum with those dumbbells too much. It might sling you forward or backwards. So take your time with it. Nice, slow, controlled motion. Keep those lungs open. Keep those core muscles nice and tight, those legs nice and tight, and those arms nice and tight. Never let anything relax to make sure you're keeping your body under control as best you possibly can. Now remember, if you don't have dumbbells, you can do this with just body weight and have it be just as effective of an exercise, or you can find something else to substitute like cans of food or bottles of water to give you just a little extra weight. And that is our last one right there. Go ahead and let it relax. We're going to switch to our next exercise, which is going to be a single leg assisted lunge plus a static curl. Go ahead and get that weight ready. You're going to put one foot up onto that bench or chair. The other foot, you're going to step forward in front of you, get a pretty decent distance away from that bench, drop down into a lunge, and hold those arms at a curl, so a 90-degree angle on those arms, so that bicep has to stay contracted the entire time. Just keep that lunge motion going, putting a majority of your weight in your front leg, but that rear leg there just for a little extra balance. We're almost done, just 2 more repetitions. And here's your last one right here. And go and switch sides. So switch those feet, let those biceps relax for just a second. Remember, step out away from that bench as far as is comfortable. Bring those dumbbells up to a curl, 90 degree on that elbow. Start into that lunge, nice deep lunge as low as is comfortable. Now because you have a foot up back behind you, it's going to feel a little weird. You can't get that rear knee actually to the ground. So just focus on trying to get a good compression on that front leg. Watch that knee, trying to let it drop too far forward. It's okay if it goes over that toe a little bit, but trying to let it go too far forward. And let it relax. All right, we're going to move back to that step up knee plus a curl and an overhead press. Remember, step up as you curl, overhead press as that knee comes up. Alternate legs, do it again. Just alternate back and forth. Again, get that motion going, nice smooth pace. Try to make sure you're getting a nice curl every single time and a nice full extension on those arms. Just keep it going, keep those lungs open. And we're almost done. We just have 2 more repetitions on each side. Just keep that motion going, nice and smooth under control. Get that curl. Extend that knee up as high as you can as you press those arms over top of your head. Last one. And let it relax. Very good. All right, let's go back to those static curl plus an assisted lunge. This is our last round. Foot propped up on that bench. Bring those dumbbells up to that curl, that 90 degree on that elbow. And start that lunge. Nice deep lunge as low as you can control. Try to keep that torso straight up and down or as close to it as you can control. Just focusing on getting a nice full range of motion, keeping all those muscles nice and contracted. And just 2 more. Here's your last one right here. And let those arms relax, those legs relax. Go and switch those feet. And whenever you're ready, go ahead and start it again. Bring those arms up, 90 degree on that elbow, dropping down into that nice deep lunge. Doing good. We're almost done. Just 2 more repetitions. Here's your last one right here. Nice deep lunge. And let it relax. Very good. We're about halfway through this time-wise. So if you want to, go ahead and take a water break. Hit pause if you need a little extra break. All right, let's go ahead and get ready for our next 2 exercises. We're going to be starting off with a weighted bridge. So go ahead and lay down flat on your back. You're going to place those dumbbells up on top of those hips if you have those dumbbells to use. Those feet nice and close to those hips, and then press them up as high as you possibly can. So press those hips up as high as you possibly can. Get a nice tight squeeze to that butt and that hamstring. Then drop it back down, just a little bit of a hover above that ground, and then squeeze those hips right back up again. So you're just going to set those dumbbells just kind of right in front of that hip flexor, right in front of that hip joint, kind of on top of the crest of that hip. Just keep that motion going. Get a nice tight squeeze every single time, really, really pressing those hips up. And we're almost done. Just 2 more repetitions to go. Tight squeeze the top of that range of motion. Slowly back down. Back up again. Tight, tight squeeze. Slowly let it drop. And let it relax for just a second. We're going to move into the next exercise with a static bridge plus a chest press. So bring those hips up again. Hold them there. Bring those dumbbells above your chest. Nice and slow out to the side and press it right back up. So if you want to do a chest press, those elbows are going to bend and then you can press right back over top of that chest. If you want to do more of a fly, if you want a little bit harder version, if you don't have a really heavy weight, then keep that arm almost completely extended and drop those arms out to the side from there. It should make that weight a lot more difficult to handle if you keep that arm a little bit straighter. Just keep that motion going, nice and slow under control. Get a full extension, trying to get as low to the ground as you can. Slowly pull it right back up, pausing just above that shoulder joint. Almost done, just 2 more repetitions. Keep it going, you're doing a good job. Just keep that form nice and solid. You have 1 more repetition to go. And let it relax. Slowly drop those hips, drop those weights down. If you want to decrease that weight, go ahead and do it now. Otherwise, just press those dumbbells right back up on top of those hips and get ready for that next round of bridges. So go ahead and lay flat on your back, those dumbbells on top of those hips, heels in close to that butt, as close as comfortable. Then press those hips up nice and high, tight squeeze on that butt every single time. Tight, tight squeeze, dropping back down, just a tiny bit of a hover. Never let those muscles relax. Just keep it going, keep those lungs open. Just keep it going, nice tight squeeze. We're almost done with this exercise. 1 more, bring it up, bring those hips up nice and high and freeze them. Bring those dumbbells up over top of those shoulders for that chest press. Moving right into that next exercise. Nice full chest press or a fly. Remember, like I said, if you don't have a whole lot of weight for that dumbbell, then you can use just a fly motion, which will make that exercise a lot harder. Focus on that chest a little bit more. Otherwise, if you do have a relatively heavy weight that you're using, then you can do a regular chest press, which is letting that elbow bend, keeping that forearm straight up and down. Just keep that motion going. Keep those hips up the entire time. Your body's going to want to start letting those hips droop, but just try to keep those hips up, squeeze into that butt the entire time. Now, by kicking that chest up like this, you're actually doing kind of a decline chest press or decline fly, which works on a slightly lower portion of that chest, the bottom part of that chest muscle. Now, we're almost done. We only have 1 more repetition to go. Make sure it's nice and solid. Down as low as you can. Slowly back up. And let it relax. Very good. All right, let's move on to our next exercise. There's going to be a static bridge plus a skull crusher. So bring those hips up again 1 more time. Nice, tight, high squeeze. And then that skull crusher is bending at that elbow, dropping that dumbbell down to your ears, and then pressing it right back up. So keep that elbow directly above that shoulder, only bending from that elbow, only moving that arm from that elbow. Dropping that hand down as close to the ground as you possibly can, as close as is comfortable. Then press it right back up again. Now, never let that elbow start drifting over top of your rib cage. You want to keep that elbow directly above that shoulder the entire time to make sure that tricep is doing all the work. If you let that elbow start drifting down towards that rib cage or down towards those hips, then you're going to be starting to use a little bit more of your shoulder rather than that tricep. All right, we're moving to a single leg jackknife next. 1 leg comes up with a dumbbell, that pull over, as well as crunching up towards that foot. Get a nice tight squeeze on those abdominal muscles and those obliques, as well as that latissimus dorsi, also known as your lats. It's a big muscle that runs across that rib cage on the back side of your body. You focus on that by that pull over with that arm. So real nice tight squeeze. You bring that arm up over top of that shoulder and then crunching it up towards that toe. Just keep that motion going, nice and under control, constantly keeping all those muscles contracted. Never let those abs release. And that is your last one right there for that side. We're going to switch hands. So now using that opposite hand and opposite leg. Same exact motion though. So bring that dumbbell up over that shoulder, then crunch it up towards that toe. Nice tight squeeze every single time, getting a really good work out of that hip flexor, your quadricep, your abdominal muscles, obliques, that latissimus dorsi, and that bicep tricep. Now, obviously, this exercise is hard for a very good reason. It uses a lot of muscle groups all at the same time. Just keep that motion going, nice and under control. Keep those lungs open, trying to really breathe as naturally as you can. Almost done, just a few more repetitions to go. Here's our last one right here. And let it relax, very good. All right, let's go back to that static bridge with a skull crusher. So grab both those dumbbells. Bring those hips up nice and high. Hands go straight up over top of those shoulders. And bend only from that elbow. Bring that dumbbell down next to your ears. And press it right back up. Try to keep that upper arm perfectly stationary, perpendicular to the ground. Now, though this exercise doesn't seem like as big of a motion as the last exercise we were doing, there's still a lot of stuff going on here. So you have your hamstrings that are contracted, your calves are going to be contracted, your glutes, those butt muscles, that lower back, as well as all the way through your shoulders and your tricep especially. So there's also a lot of stuff going on with this exercise. There's just not a whole lot of big motion with it. So you're going to feel this one quite a bit as well. And there's your last repetition right here. Full extension, and let it relax. All right, let's move into that single leg jackknife. Back to one dumbbell, full extension on that arm, full extension on those legs, opposite arm to leg, crunching it up across. Just keep that motion going under control. Keep those lungs open. Nice tight squeeze the entire time, never letting those abdominal muscles relax until you're completely done with all those repetitions. Doing good, just 2 repetitions left. Keep it going. Our last one right here, nice tight squeeze, crunch it up, and switch those arms. Full extension again, and start up. Arm comes up, crunching up towards that foot, slowly back down, full extension again, right back up again. Keep those lungs open, and don't let those abs release until you're done with every single one of these repetitions. You're doing good. Just keep it going. We have 2 more repetitions to go. Keep it under control. Just 1 more. And let it relax. Nicely done. Very good. Let's go ahead and move on to our next 2 exercises. Starting it off with our first one, the deadlift plus a close row. So dropping straight forward, bending only from that hip, trying to keep that leg relatively straight. Once that chest is parallel to the ground, keeping that back perfectly flat, you're going to draw those dumbbells up towards your rib cage, bring those elbows back behind you as far as you possibly can, then drop them back down to a full extension before you come back up from that deadlift. So make sure that back stays perfectly flat the entire time. Make sure you drop down for that deadlift before you start your row, and you finish your row before you come back up from that deadlift. Just keep that motion going, nice and slow under control. And again, try to get a nice full range out of each one of those motions. And just 2 more repetitions to go. Keep that motion nice and slow under control. Tight squeeze. 1 more. Back flat. And let it relax. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next exercise, which is going to be a calf raise plus a side leg lift. So a calf raise and one leg comes up, another calf raise, and then the opposite leg comes up. Just try to balance as best you can on those toes. The extra balance on there, not being able to use either a chair or wall to help you keep your balance, actually makes that calf and that ankle have to work a lot harder. So try to keep that balance. Now the slower you go, the better it's going to be for that balance. And also make sure you get a nice slow leg raise as well, alternating every single time between those calf raises. Try to keep that torso as straight up and down as you can every single time you do that side leg raise. Try not to let your body tip over sideways. Your body's going to want to try to lean over to make it easier to lift that leg. So try to force your body, to your upper body especially, to stay straight up and down to make that leg work harder. All right, back to that deadlift plus a close row. Feet just about shoulder width apart. Leg relatively straight, just a little bit of a bend in that knee. a nice flat back, and then pulling that dumbbell up to that rib cage, get that elbow up really nice and high past that rib cage, then slowly back down before you come back up from that deadlift. Just keep that motion going, keep those lungs open. Nice, slow, controlled motion. Doing a good job. We just have 2 more repetitions to go. And just 1 more. And let it relax. Very good. All right, let's go back to that calf raise and single leg lift. This is our last round of this exercise. Nice tight calf raise. One leg comes up out to the side as high as you can while still keeping that torso straight up and down. Then another calf raise, and then bring that opposite leg up. Just keep alternating back and forth with that leg raise. Get a nice tight calf raise in between every single time. All right, we've got 2 more calf raises and 1 more leg raise on each side. And just 1 more calf raise, leg raise on the opposite side, and let it relax. Very good. This workout is done. We're going to do our cool down and stretch. We've got 20 seconds per exercise on this one. Let's go ahead and get ready. Our first stretch is going to be a wide toe touch. So get those feet about twice shoulder width apart. Drop those hands down towards the ground, nice and low. If you want to get a little extra shoulder stretch out of it, you can do what Kelly's doing by bringing those hands back behind your back, letting gravity kind of pull them down towards the ground. Just kind of move around a little bit, get a little bit of stretch going in different places. Just keep those lungs open, breathing normally. And we're going to switch to a quad stretch next. So stand up nice and straight and tall. Bring that heel to your butt as close as is comfortable, and then pull that knee back behind you as far as you can. You should feel this to the front of that thigh, as well as possibly even into the front of that hip just a little bit. Try to make sure you're staying perfectly straight up and down the entire time. If you lean forward, then you're going to get rid of some of that stretch. So make sure that torso stays straight up and down. All right, go ahead and switch sides. That other leg comes up, heel to butt, as close as is comfortable, and then pull that knee back as far as you can. Again, still trying to keep that torso straight up and down. So breathe normally, keep those lungs open. Try to hold that balance. And let's go ahead and move to the next, which is going to be a lunging hip flexor stretch plus an arm cross pull. So lunging forward with one leg, the other leg stays straight back behind you to get that hip flexor to stretch a little bit more. Grabbing across that arm, pulling it across in front of your chest as close as you can, kind of pulling across that arm as well to try to get a good stretch to that shoulder blade. And let's go ahead and let that one relax. We're going to switch sides. So same exact position, just opposite sides. Leg back behind you stays perfectly straight to get a little extra stretch in that hip flexor. Grabbing that arm across in front of your chest, pulling across your chest to get a good stretch to that shoulder blade and the outside of that shoulder. Again, just keep those lungs open, pushing into that stretch the entire time. And let that one relax. We're going to do an inside thigh stretch. So dropping off to one side, you should feel this on the inside thigh of that straight leg. Just hold it there, however is comfortable. Kind of roll around a little bit, press those hips down towards the ground to kind of find that stretch. Again, just keep those lungs open. And let's go ahead and switch sides. Off to the other side. Again, keep that leg nice and straight, dropping that hip down towards that straight leg. Moving around a little bit to try to find that best stretch for you. Mainly focusing on that inside thigh. And let's go ahead and let that relax. Go and stand back up. We're going to do a wall chest stretch. One hand on the wall back behind you. Rotate those shoulders away from that hand. If you're feeling the stretch too much in your bicep, then just rotate that shoulder so the inside of that elbow is facing up towards the ceiling, and you should feel it more in that chest. Just hold it there, keeping those lungs open and keeping a nice consistent stretch as that arm starts to loosen a little bit. Let's go and switch sides. Other hand, fingers facing back behind you. Rotate away from that arm. Keep that arm nice and straight. Again, if you're feeling it too much in that bicep, rotate that arm so the inside of that elbow is facing up towards the ceiling, and you should feel it more in that chest. And let's go ahead and move to the next, which is a shoulder calf stretch. So one leg back behind you, pressing that heel into the ground for that calf stretch, and also pressing that chest down towards the wall to get that shoulder stretch. Hands flat against the wall, just hold it a little bit longer. Go and switch those legs. Press that other heel down nice and close to the ground, pressing that chest down towards the ground. Hold it just a little bit longer, and let it relax. Let's go to a downward facing dog. So walking those hands out, keeping those legs nice and straight, pressing those heels into the floor, pressing that chest down towards those feet, get a nice straight line from your wrist to your hip and from your hip down to your ankle. Just hold that position, again, keeping those lungs open, breathing as normally as you can. And let's move into a deep glute stretch. This is also known as a pigeon pose or modified pigeon pose. You're laying down flat on that leg, one leg's crossed over top in front of you. The leg that you have in front of you is the one you're going to be feeling the stretch in. You're going to feel that stretch in the glute of that leg, the butt muscle of that leg. And let's go ahead and switch sides. So same exact thing on the opposite side. That other leg comes in front, leaning forward. Remember, you're going to be feeling it on the leg that's crossed in front of you. You're going to be feeling the butt muscle of that leg. And let's go ahead and move on to the next exercise, which is going to be a seated hamstring stretch. So sitting down on that tailbone, you have one leg kicked out in front of you. Other leg's going to be tucked in nice and close. Stretching down towards that foot first, the leg that's extended. Getting a good stretch on that hamstring. Should feel this at that lower back as well. Again, just keep those lungs open, constantly holding that stretch, trying to get a little bit more of a stretch the entire time. Now keep that position, but you're going to lay across that bent knee next. So you should feel a little bit of stretch through your glute of that bent knee as well as the inside thigh of that leg that's extended straight. It's just a little bit of a different stretch, hitting some of the same ones we've hit before. It's a little bit longer. And go ahead and let that relax. We're going to switch sides. So start that opposite leg out straight, tuck that other leg in, stretching down, just a regular hamstring stretch, stretching down towards that foot, trying to get as far down to that foot as you can, get a nice stretch to that hamstring and a little bit into that lower back. And keep that position, just lay over top of that bent knee, laying down flat on that thigh, changing that focus of that stretch. So now you're focusing on the inside of that thigh of the leg you have straight and the glute of the leg you have bent. Just hold it there, again, keeping those lungs open, trying to find a really good stretch, trying to find where you're most tight and push into it just a little bit more. Now let's go ahead and move on to the next one, which is going to be a double knee hug stretch. This is for those glutes as well. Also might feel a little bit into that lower back. Just hug those knees to your chest as tight as you can. Again, just breathe normally. And go ahead and let that relax. We're going to move on to a full body stretch. So laying flat on your back, arms and legs in opposite directions. Nice deep breath in as you pull that back up, stretching through those abs as much as you can, pushing those hands and feet in opposite directions. Then exhale, let it relax for just a second, and then inhale, stretching it back out in opposite directions. Just nice and slow, cycling at whatever pace you want to. Just stretching every time you inhale and relaxing every time you exhale. All right, very good job. The cool down is done, which means this workout is complete. You just finished another one of Fitness Blender's total body strength and toning workouts.